So we've got the 4644 drive. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Right. This is a relatively modern design, right? Maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was a design that I wanted to build because it's a combination of overdrive and soft distortion, right? So it's not the same as the Voodoo Blues, because the Voodoo Blues has a different type of feel to it than this one. This one is a bit more, what should we say? It's voiced for the modern people who want a really powerful rock sound, right? A dry sound. Mostly designed possibly for hard rock players, really. It's not, it's not designed for the blues. Well, it's not. It could be used, but it's not. So the name, right? So why is it called 4644? 46 is the racing number for Valentino Rossi. Fantastic world champion, 7 times, 8 times world champion. No, 9. Anyway, 44 is the racing number for Lewis Hamilton, and they're both exceptional drivers. So that's why. So 4644, yeah, that's my little homage to Lewis and Valentino. It's a combination pedal. In terms of the way it produces the distortion, it's a combination. It's unlike anybody else's one, and it's been voiced, as I said, to be powerful, and it's got very nice tone control and very usable gain and output control. So it's found its way into many players, from people in Nashville to rock players to this. Hasn't found its way in the country yet.
But it might well do.
It might well do, but it's primarily voiced for that type of stuff. It's good on chord work and stuff like that. It's very you can play chords through it quite well,
And you still get the note definition as well.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, Voodoo 1 pedal. Now this was the first pedal I designed after possibly the Axis pedal. Right, this pedal was designed for what would be called a hard rock sound, and it was voiced primarily, for like the Japanese hard rock scene, and also, it's a signature pedal that Michael Landau uses. He uses a Voodoo 1. It's a passive form of distortion. The distortion element is not put in a feedback loop. So it's got a nice feed forward sound to it, which makes it expressive and smooth. And it's very musical. Yeah, it has a lot of gain. So you've got that, like West Coast, California sound. So you can tap with it, and it's very smooth sounding, and it's musical. It sounds musical, yeah. So it's become popular because Mike Landau made it kind of popular, but a lot of people in the Orient really like it. We sold loads of these, yeah. Now our most popular pedal in Japan and probably worldwide is this pedal, Voodoo Bass. It's the bass version of the Voodoo 1. Now in Japan especially, having distortion on bass with their type of music is very popular. So bass players have almost some of them an iconic status, and the way they use the bass on their type of music is unique, So we made the bass version of this, and the sales of this one are well in excess of 5 times that one.
Wow.
So, but Voodoo bass pedals probably well in excess of 15,000 units.
Crazy.
Right. we made a special version for a bass player, Mr. Kameda, in Japan, and that was the special edition, just a 500 for him. But then we sold an awful lot of those over the period of time. Still popular, still being sold for people who want, powerful distortion bass, because most other pedals can't be used on a bass, like distortion pedals, but they don't have enough low end. You know, so it's got plenty of low end, which is very important for the power. Spitfire pedal, it follows the Voodoo 1 pedal. It uses passive distortion in it. There's no distortion in the feedback loop, which would be pedals that have distortion in the feedback loop would be something like a big muff would be one, tube screamer would be another, tone bender would be another. There's quite a few of them, and the characteristics of the feedback type of distortion pedals are that they tend to stand out in a mix. They don't blend in very well. Very hard to find a place for that type of fuzz box to blend in. It all kind of sticks out. Not particularly musical sounding. So that's why I've never ever made that type of pedal. I looked into those type of configurations and just threw them away. I don't want to make a pedal that sounds like that because I don't like the way it sounds myself. It's not very musical. It's not very human sounding. So let's just forget about it. Let's just concentrate on the philosophy that we use with Jimmy of having the pedal sound human and that fit into a track seamlessly and become part of the track and become part of the human experience of you listening to the sound. Hence the Spitfire. The Spitfire is a great rock sounding pedal. It's got beautiful, it's been voiced very carefully over a number of years with some good players to fit in. It can be heard on some of, you know, the Who stuff, Roger Daltrey stuff, modern stuff, you know, quite a few players like it, you know. It's a good sounding pedal. Worth a listen. You know, maybe it fits in for your taste, you know. But it's no tube screamer. I don't make any tube screamers. Yeah, Octavia. This is one version of it, right? Now, first of all, let's do an introduction about the Octavia. The concept behind the Octavia is basically to excuse me because I get cut off. Right, the concept behind the Octavia is a question I get asked most often. The concept behind it came from the fact of the matter is we wanted to create a sound that is the mirror image of the sound that exists now. So that can be thought of graphically as putting, say, an image in front of two mirrors, and when you do that, you generate an infinite number of images behind it. Right? Mirror imaging. So this does that. This does it electronically. It's a bit more. It's quite a bit more complicated than it first appears. Most people like you know, who don't understand it, they don't understand that because the actual mirror imaging technique on this uses information from the player that's playing to modify the actual outcome. This is called feed forward. So it's using information as you're playing that changes the outcome. Now most people say, well, yeah, but that's obvious. I said, no. If feedback, the difference between feed forward and feedback is feedback assumes that the answer that you've got can be corrected by referring it to the input and then making an error signal to correct it. This doesn't work in many instances. This is why the actual concept of feedback doesn't work in many amplifiers. It will work on a sine wave, right?
Yeah.
Because let me explain to you. Music, by definition, is a non-repetitive waveform that is asymmetric. Now, that means it's not symmetrical. A sine wave is a symmetrical waveform that goes up and down, up and down. Music can have a peak that's much greater on one side of the zero than the other side. That's asymmetric. Also, one cycle that goes up and down of music never repeats. It's not the same. That's the definition of music. If it didn't change, it would become a tone.
Yeah.
Right? You see, it's not music. So the electronic techniques that you can use on, or the analysis which the people make and they teach, I don't want to get into it, but the analysis of most filter circuits and most electronics is done purely for convenience and simplicity on symmetrical waveforms, sine waves. Now, music's got nothing at all to do with sine waves. So most of the techniques that they even bother to teach you about and talk about, it's meaningless, pointless, because it's got nothing at all to do with music.
Yeah.
So most of my designs are use advanced techniques like feed forward and different, quite complicated techniques within the circuit. Even though the circuit looks simple, that are constantly changing with as you play. And this is what gives it a human feel. And this is what means when you play through certain of my pedals, especially the Octavia, it changes the way you think because it's instantaneous like change.
So it's got much more human feel to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not many people can play an Octavia because what they do is immediately they get on it and they're playing something they've played before. Wrong. The Octavia is designed for you to play something you've never played before.
Fair enough.
That's the most important thing.
And who used the Octavia?
First person to use it, Jimi Hendrix. Next person of real note to use it, Ernie Isley of the Isley Brothers. Next person to use it, possibly Julian Marvin from the Wailers. With Bob Marley was used on that. Then we had other players use it, Stevie Ray used it, I think, Prince had one, and all kinds of players during the 80s in New York, a few people had them. Not many. Limited it to about, until I produced, a series of them after 1980, there was about 15 people before 1980. You could have heard the Octavia on it.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you can produce these now so that everyone can experience this for themselves.
Yeah, I mean yeah, but not everyone. It's a funny pedal because not that many people can use it, can play with it, because it's difficult to use.
Yeah,
and it's not designed to be easy to use.
That sounds great either way.
Yeah, right. Now this pedal was designed at the same time after we recorded Purple Haze, and Jimmy was using the fuzz phase type of circuit live. He said, well, it's got to be something better than that, right? Or it was more reliable for using in the studio. That's when I came up with this particular circuit configuration for the Axis. And this was designed primarily for recording, not really for playing live. We never used it really for playing live. It's because we didn't have to, and these are expensive prototypes. So the Axis uses a completely different configuration than a fuzz phase. The one you're holding now is the latest version. When I say the latest version, it's the latest model that incorporates some of the, it's got 27 tweaks in it, where you can adjust some of the tweaks that we used in the studio to tailor this pedal for a particular song in a particular track. It drastically changes the way the pedal reacts, because the same circuit configuration, by using varying the components and the way the components interact, greatly changes the way the pedal sounds.
So these are all internal dip switches, and you can so you've got 27 options in there.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. So you've almost got every type of fuzz sound you're going to want.
Well, of this particular type of configuration.
Yes.
Right. So the Axis is a particular, very stable configuration that produces distortion. Very, very musical sounding. Very, very powerful. It's a powerful sounding pedal. You play this loud in a club. I mean, it's a destroyer. People, it's very loud. It's a loud sounding pedal, and it's used, as I said, you know, it's good when it's used in anger, it's good on solos and this and that. And but to complement that one,
Yes.
we've introduced. Have you got the Visage there?
We have got the Visage. Let's grab that out.
Now, these yeah, the Visage pedal, same. You know, we've got the 1590 series enclosure, so it's pedal board friendly. Also, it's got a lot of power supply smoothing, as do all my very modern pedals. The performance you get from these pedals is far superior than any battery could be provide. So we don't even bother to put a battery lead in here.
It's just power. Yeah. Which is interesting, because you see so many of these kind of boutique pedal manufacturers, or some big manufacturers that make fuzzies, say it's got to be the first thing in the chain and you've got to run it off batteries.
No, that's bullshit. No, that's completely false. The fact of the matter is, and we'll continue on this anyway, the Visage contains 45 presets. And that would encompass most of the important changes that I did to Jimmy's fuzz face circuits in the studio, to tune the circuit in the studio for a particular cut. Because why wouldn't we do that when we could?
Yeah.
Pull the solder 9 out, boom, 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 solder that, and it changes the sound. It's a nice box thing.
Yeah, and it's so inside here you've got similar dip switch setup, 45 dip switches.
Well, yeah, not 45, but
I was going to say
45 combinations.
Yeah, with the dip switches.
Yeah. Now, the other concept between this was that we were saying that if someone's got a Visage, for instance, or an Axis, they can have one pedal in their gig bag with a guitar, and they can rock up anywhere with a Marshall. They can plug it in. They don't need a pedal board.
Yeah.
They've got guitar, they've got one of these. You're going to get a great sound. You know, you don't need the rest of the stuff. Then you can just concentrate on playing. You see, because you don't really want your attention drawn away by looking down, you know, at your feet. You just want to play the guitar and hit the button or turn the volume up on the guitar to change the tone. And all these pedals have been designed, and most of my pedals have been designed so that the sound can be changed by the volume control on the guitar. So you don't even have to you don't ever have to bend down.
You can just leave this on top of your amp plugged in.
Oh,
good to go.
Floor, good to go. Or if you want to bypass it, you leave it on the floor and it's good, and you're good to go. I mean, that one, say Visage and an Axis, and say one of my Whopper, you really don't need any more playing live, because the average person, the average punter, I don't think they can hear more than 3 different sounds anyway, you know. No, they wouldn't. They can't. You can't expect them to distinguish it. They can't.
So,
Voodoo X pedal. Now, previously I showed you the Axis 27 pedal, similar pedal in a similar size box. This pedal does not have any of the internal presets that give you access to some of the internal circuit configurations that the Axis 27 does, right? But this pedal preceded this one. But what this pedal does have, it's got quite an interesting equalizing circuit, which is after the distortion. So you've got the distortion of the regular Axis pedal, then you've got the EQ section that enables you to get a very quick change of tonal palette, so you can dial it in. So it's got its place. It's different, you see, but it's in the same family, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So this pedal is in the Axis family pedal, whereas the Voodoo one, Voodoo Bass, Spitfire, and all that are in that family. Yeah, they're different.
So how did the Voodoo Blues get in the lineup then?
The Voodoo Blues is a completely different design than any of my other fuzz boxes or distortion boxes. It was designed to give to complement, you know, the style of playing like Stevie Ray or, you know, Albert King, well not Albert King, but, you know, that rock blues sound, right? not Leonard Skinner, they've got a particular sound, but anyway, it's a very heavy sounding blues pedal. Not massive amounts of sustain, but it encourages you to play, you know, different chordal shapes with the guitar, and it's got a very human, nice quality of harmonics in it. It's got very, you know, it's got a good series of harmonics in it, which makes it very, very pleasing to play. And that was designed, as I said, you know, for that type of player. You know, Julian Marvin used a similar type of pedal with Bob Marley on some of his solo work with on Exodus and so forth. So that's what it's designed for.
Now this is probably the most impressive looking wah pedal I think I've seen.
Well, it will be. And I'll tell you how this came about. Right? I was modifying wah pedals, obviously for Jimmy, from, you know, Band of Gypsies, through Ernie Isley, through all the guitar players, you know, Steve Stevens, Stevie Ray, all those people. So when I moved back to England around in the 1990s, right, I decided I am tired of modifying and putting right basically a very bad design that doesn't work. And the reason for that is, number one is a conventional wah pedal, like a Crybaby, was designed primarily when you were sitting down. So your foot was like that. It's a keyboard playing. So when you stand up, the whole action of your foot is wrong. The balance is wrong on your foot because of the weight. Now this pedal is designed, as you can you see it now? It's designed so that it goes down slightly like that,
yeah,
and then it goes up. Now the actual angular movement of this pedal is more than on a Crybaby. The low profile of the pedal is such that it's maybe 20 millimeters shorter, or it's closer to the ground than a Crybaby would be. It also was designed to be counterbalanced, so it stays wherever you put it. Yeah, it's maybe like this piece of carbon fibre you're looking here. It's very highly technical. I designed it. I designed the whole enclosure and the carbon fibre. It's very lightweight, and it's foam core, but it's got a piece of steel in the back like that. Now this piece of steel does the very important thing, because there is no potentiometer in this. You look at this, there's nothing. Right? You say, well, how does it work? Well, there is a proximity coil here in the back that measures the angle of the pedal, like that. So the angle of the pedal is then converted into electrical signal. Now what does that do? Well, we measured the angle of the pedal. So now the electrical signal from the angle of the pedal has to be converted to make the wah sweep. Yeah, for me, not so difficult. But the interesting thing about the switching is there's a piece of foam rubber in the front, so we can actually measure the electrical signal when it's just touching the foam rubber, and when you compress the foam rubber, we can measure that change, and that will create the switch.
So it all works. The electrics all work from this side.
It's all contactless.
Yeah.
Nothing there. And the bit of carbon fibre you're looking there. We went to the top people in Derby who do all the carbon fibre work for McLaren, Mercedes and that. You're talking about maybe close on 20, well, in today's terms, maybe close on £40,000 of tooling there.
Wow.
It was the most manufactured piece of carbon fibre that they've ever done, because they made, I don't know how many they made for us, but well over 1,000. So, right? People that have got these would be like Carlos Santana,
yeah,
right, Jimmy Page, bunch of people, bunch of guitar players that have them, you know. Lead player of, you know, the reggae guys, the guy with Toots and the Maytals, a lot of players who want them, because it's the last pedal that they'll ever buy, because you virtually can't break it, you see. And when you're standing on it, I don't know, can you see on the foot? When you're standing on it, it's designed so that when you're playing, it's so comfortable. So it connects your foot to your brain in the most transparent way possible. And that means you're going to play better. You're going to play stuff on this that you cannot play on a Crybaby. And the other point is, because it is facing forwards, you can come off of it. It looks good. To switch a sound, you can do a motion like that and it just changes. So it's a cool pedal. It's also designed to have the leads coming in from here and here, so they're quite protected.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what do the two controls do either side?
But we've got different models, but this one is this blends the wire back into the original sound, so you don't have to have 100% wire.
Yeah,
you can go between the normal sound and the wire sound, or you can also vary the wire sweep.
So you can make it wide or narrow.
Yeah, or change the wire sweep actually. Yeah. Here we have this is the latest version of the Voodoo vibe. Now, Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies used a Univibe pedal, which was made by a Japanese company. Now, this particular pedal was the use a filter circuit, right? A 4-stage filter circuit which gave a particular sound. The pedal was very crude in design because it didn't have any stability. If the mains voltage changed, the whole characteristics of the pedal changed, because the power supply wasn't regulated, so there was no stability within the pedal. Wasn't particularly quiet, didn't have many options for getting actually within the filter sweep and tuning the filters, right? So when I helped Jimmy with the pedals that he had, it really came down to all you could do was take the pedal apart and carefully select the components, you see, to make one that really sounded great, So looking at that, I said, in the future, God, I started to make another rack-mounted version for several people called the Super Vibe. And that was based upon, the same filter circuitry that the original Univibe had. There was nothing special about the particular configuration. It's a well-known configuration that people use, but it was the tuning of the filter stages that was the important thing.
Yes.
So if you didn't have control of the tuning of the stages, you're basically screwed, really. I mean, it's never going to sound great. So you couldn't buy the components from a catalogue and you get a great sounding one. I mean, we actually manufacture the main element in this, which is a photo-optical resistor. But I mean, we make there's a huge selection. There's a huge number of bins that I have that we make. Out of making 1,000 pairs or 1,000 sets of them, we'll divide them into like 20 different bins, and then you have to select the bins that you're going to use to make the overall circuit work. Now, there's 4 stages of that now, so there's obviously requires quite a bit of knowledge to be able to select the right ones to make it sound right. Okay, you got that. So your chances of you going home and building your own Univibe and making it sound great, 0, 0. Just forget about it. So this requires to have access to the manufacturing capabilities that I do to manufacture the actual light cells. We don't buy them in, we make them from the components. So we have to get the LEDs, cut them off, stick them together, test them, glue them, and that's the expensive part. But that's what makes it sound good. Now, this pedal has 3 functions on it. It's got the vibrato and the chorus, And the other one, this one has on it, is a tremolo selection. Now, the original Unibop didn't have a tremolo on it. This does. And we've also got 6 selections of speed. We've got 3 selections of one waveform and 3 selections on this one of another waveform, a square wave. That makes a real pulsing sound, very electronic, but you know, like a machine gun. So you've got that. Then we get into the you have a fine speed control that overlaps. So these you've got a huge range of speed there, from very, very slow, almost imperceptible, to very fast. And then you have the speed control, which controls, you know.
So that's more of a fine tune then.
That's a fine tune, yeah. So you can dial it into the tempo of the song. And then this is the symmetry control. Now, symmetry, well, what's the symmetry? Once again, we get back to the waveform as it sweeps. We can have a sweep that speeds up to the end and then slows down, or the other way. We've got all the combinations of symmetry of the way it sweeps, right? So it's not sweeping symmetrically. It could be going like that, or, you know, anyway. So you've got symmetry control. Then you've got the intensity. That's the intensity of the sweep within the waveform. And then the bias control. Now this is the tricky one. The bias control actually voices the whole filter, so that you can tune it in and find your actual tone that you really dig.
Yeah.
And you can do that. And then there's an output control just to control the balance of your output burst.
So you can either have it, you know, quiet or loud, or in unison to what you have as broadcast.
It's got a few jack sockets on the back. It's got a to and from. You can turn that to an external speed control.
Okay.
We don't make that, but we give instructions for people that want to use it. Very people use it. I mean, I don't know, less than 1% I think of people use that. And then it's got a selection of outputs here. You've got what, a hard wire output, which means that it's a direct wire. So you hit the button, it's signal in and out. Then there's 2 other buffered outputs, which are used even in bypass if you were driving long leads, because this would probably come on the end of a signal chain, and if the amplifier was a long distance away, you might want to have a long lead, see, so you will benefit from having a buffer there, but not necessarily on short distances, yeah.
How much difference is there between the 2 buffered outputs?
What? Well, oh, I know they're identical.
Oh, so you can have it in stereo if you want.
Well, no, it's not stereo, just in parallel.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So
you might want to have one sound coming out, and then you might have one sound going through a delay, or a different equalization.
So you can split your signal from there.
Well, it's split all for you.
Yeah.
You've got 2 parallel outputs to play with.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So it's a very comprehensive pedal, used by virtually everybody.
Yeah, it's
You know, from Dave Gilmour to Floyd, you know, everyone's got one. This is an industry standard pedal. I mean, there's a lot of people that I don't know, I don't even call them copies, but if it's not a Voodoo Y Plus, it ain't one of them. It's just RM58. Now this is based upon a very famous limiter that I made that was used, you know, from the early 1968, 70s in New York. It's got a great limiting circuit on it, and it's been used in all the major studios. This is recording studio ready. It's got inputs for both, you know, instrument level and +4. So it's professional recording limiter. It's made in this particular version for putting on the floor. It's probably most used. Well, it's used a lot nowadays by bass players because it sounds great on the bass. I mean, Coldplay and all, a lot of people use it on the bass. But it sounds very, very good on the bass. I mean, it sounds great on vocal, but it's now but we have other versions of it which are more studio friendly, that go into rack mounts and used for other studio purposes, as was our original ones. They were all 19-inch rack mount, but this was one that was designed for the floor. Useful, yeah, you can use it on guitar, although compression used on a guitar, it's nice for a recording, but on guitar, it just depends what you want to do with it. But it's an FET limiter, very, very quiet and very, very flexible. It's got, different, selected attack and release times. So you've got 36 combinations there of attack and release, and threshold and output control. So we make it as simple as we can, for operation. Of course, the big difference is you can't compare an analog type of limiter like this in comparison with a software or a plug-in type of limiter. Infinitely better, more human sounding, very useful. And of course, as I said, very popular with bass players, especially in Japan. They love it.
This is a great pedal. I do love the dial on there as well. How it looks cool. That moves as you're playing through it, so you can see how much effect it's having.
Oh, the meter.
Yes.
The gain reduction. Yeah. This is quite a unique circuit. The gain reduction is actually measured very accurately on a side chain to give you a good indication of how much gain reduction you've got. So while you're recording, you can see when it's moving backwards. Yeah, it's accurate. It's good.
Nice.
Good pedal. Okay. Now, I get asked a lot of questions about how did Jimmy set his guitars up, right? Now, the answer to that is, well, it would be depending upon the day and which guitar it was, yeah? Now, this example here is the classic example of a maple neck with a wooden insert where the truss rod goes. So this would probably be the brightest example of the neck. Because I don't know what wood is here, right? But we used to use sometimes the sunburst ones where you could see what the wood was underneath, because that's the purest form of Stratocaster, is the sunburst one, because you can see that it's probably made of 3 pieces of wood. That's the minimum normally that Stratocaster is made of. There's a piece of wood here, and there's a joint, right? So the coloured ones could be made with up to 5 different pieces of wood. And the worst examples of them used to be all the blue and all the other ones, you see.
All the solid colours.
Yeah, they hid all the imperfections of the offcuts. They all stuck in together and just bandsaw around it and whatever. So anyway, brief. So now we get to the setup on the guitar. Now Jimmy played, as I said, on this guitar, which is, a left-handed guitar. Anyway, it was the length of this string is quite short, which would be the equivalent for Jimmy, yeah?
Yeah.
Except that when Jimmy played, this profile of the wood would be here, so that the amount of wood that's supporting the vibration from the top string is more pronounced because of the more volume of wood, because it's flipped. But anyway, the string gauges ran from, say, 26, right? 10, 13, 15, 26, 32, 38. Once again, 10, 13, 15, 26, 32, 38. Now, one of the most important things that most people probably they don't realise, that the 10, 13 is a wonderful combination. No problem. Because it gives you enough meat on the string here to get enough magnetic output from the pickups. You can't use the 9, they're girl strings, don't they? They sound weedy, So the 13's fine, but the difference between using a 15 here And the 17, which is normally what happens in most sets, is that the 17, if you use a 17, you'll find that as you play the guitar, it will become G heavy. The whole guitar will become G heavy because the output of the strings is proportional to the square of the diameter. So there you get 100 and this and that. But the difference between 15 square, which is 225, and the 17 square is large. So having the 15 there makes it much more balanced when you go to the 26 there. And then the 32 and the 38 make the guitar more funky. So you can hit the lower strings harder and play. You can, I don't know what's on this guitar, but you can play 3 notes easily with a 38 on that. See? So it's more funky. I mean, it's just more funky, and same thing with the A. So you have that's the balance of the strings, and also the strings that we used back then, they were all nickel wound. They weren't steel wound, plated in nickel. Forget about the solid strings. Yeah, that makes no difference. But the wound strings were nickel, pure nickel.
How does that change the sound?
Because the nickel isn't as magnetic as the iron. See? And also, sometimes these strings were rolled, which means that after they've been wound, put them to a roller, which makes them smoother. It's not like having some of the other brands of strings. You know, I don't want to name them, but you know, you go like that, it's like sandpaper on your hands. You know, tear your fingers up. No, they were, but that's how they were. So you have the mixture of you know, the nickel and the string gauges, because the guitar basically is a very, very simple instrument. There's nothing complicated about a guitar. It's a bit of wire between there and there in an open string, and you put your finger down there, changes the tone. That's it. You know, and that's from mechanically. Obviously, the way the vibration goes through the neck into the body, that makes a huge difference in the Stratocaster, because it's longitudinal grain mating to longitudinal grain over an area that's relatively large, you see, at least as large as that. So the way the neck sits into the body becomes very important to get the sustain from the neck into the body. So that becomes part of the setup, is the way the cavity has been, you know, sanded and profiled so that the neck gets maximum sustain into the body. I mean, I used to set up all the guitars for all the Isley brothers, Ernie especially, and Bob Marlin's guitars. They're all done by me. The bass guitars as well, to get the sustain of the note and make it perfect. You know, the same thing as cutting of the nut. You know, to get the angle. The difference of the angle, how the string goes into the machine head, that also affects the tone because of the amount of pressure onto the nut, you know, right? So you've got a few little things you can play with there. The setup here of the tremolo block, what does become very important is the way the tension of these particular pivot screws are. They've got to be set up correctly so that you get maximum transference of the vibration into the body of the guitar from the fact that the string is wrapping over the various you know, pieces, string saddles, and then you've also got the fact that when it goes into the back, this tremolo block here, they have made the tremolo blocks out of different materials from time to time. You know, different metals, pardon me.
Yeah.
And that also affects the amount of sustain that you get out of the guitar. We always use 5 springs on the guitar because that gives you the most chance, the the best chance of the guitar staying in tune, and you get less spring memory as the rubbing bar goes up and down. That's basically, you know, on the mechanical side of it. Also, the early Stratocasters, right, which I don't know if they still do now. The early ones had a conical spring. Do you remember that?
For where? Sorry, for the
Underneath this screw here that
Yes.
holds the pickup, there was a conical spring that went like that. And the point of having them there was so that the pickup became isolated, it was floating, and it wasn't touching the found board. So what the idea from that was to isolate the vibration of the body away from the pickup to stop it squealing, because it's, say in a Telecaster where this pickup is virtually screwed to the body, they just squeal. So Leo put the coil spring in there, and the earliest Stratocasters had a bit more clearance around it, and the pickup was on springs.
so yeah, it just doesn't it doesn't feed back.
Don't feedback as much. And it's important for these. It's important to have really the pickups kind of floating in the or spring mounted, so that they're not touching into this board, because that makes, once again, it makes the pickup be isolated away from the vibration of the body, which you want it to be, because you want the magnetic pickup to actually pick up the magnetism change by the spring vibrating. So really, you know, that's it really.
Do you feel that you know, for the people that like modding their guitars, let's say, do you think changing pickups makes a big difference to the sound?
It's probably the most overrated and waste of money that you could possibly do on a guitar, because basically, you know, I mean, put it this way. I had this discussion with you know, Seymour. I mean, Christ. I mean, you know, you got magnets here. They produce magnetism, don't they? Obviously. Coil of wire goes around the outside. Copper's copper. Copper don't give them a monkeys. So how many turns you put on these is up to you. Now, when I first started modifying my Jimmy, I took some of the pickups and I wound up a series of pickups with all different numbers of coil on it, just to work out which was what we thought was the best. And we came back to the original, what Leo chose. You know, couldn't improve upon it, because there's a trade-off. If you put more turns on it, you get more output, but you get less. You know, it gets more bassy. I mean, more trebly, but you know, no, there's nothing in it. You know, I mean, the way the magnets are staggered, yeah, that can become kind of personal. Of course, you can't adjust them. Whatever you do, don't hit the magnet, because if you move the magnet, you're going to break the coil. New pickup. So I don't think the pickups make a lot of difference. A major difference in some of the tellies is when you swap out the pickup and you put in a P90 or something.
So changing the actual type of pickup instead of changing it for like.
Yeah, because the major quality of these type of pickups is that you've got single magnets that produce a magnetic field that is quite pointy, so that makes it quite detailed. You see, if you paddle a bar right across the thing, it mushes everything together.
Yeah.
So you know, it's up to you. You know, that's why certain Gibson pickups don't really have much definition. They don't. You can't get twang out on a bass string out of a Gibson, can you?
No, it's a completely different sound, isn't it?
Of course it is, yes. That's to do with the way it's picking up the vibration of the string. And plus, you know, Gibsons don't sound very twangy because of the way of the wood construction of the guitar. But even if it did, I mean, I've got a Telecaster I made, a custom one, all maple, completely maple, and we put P90s in it, or what was it, P55s? The old ones. black
P90s, yeah.
P90s, yeah, got two of them in it. Great. But it's powerful, you know. It sounds like not a Gibson, but it's a blend between the two. So I mean, you do have that option, you know. But
Have you ever met Leo Fender?
no, he's dead. I don't think he was around. No, I never met Leo. No,
He,
good engineer,
yeah,
good production engineer.
yeah. He always seemed to be like yourself, pushing the change, you know, to make everything better with his guitars.
Yeah, well, he went on. He made a few nice guitars with GLS, didn't he, at one time?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Did
I
a few
mean,
now, and
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, the Stratocaster design is hard to beat. It's got, you know, the cutout is you know, obviously, you know,
it's very comfy, isn't it?
it's hamburger friendly, isn't it?
That's why the Americans like him.
Yeah, yeah, it's very food friendly. So I mean, it's good. And this, you see, there's another point too. Because you've got the slope here. When you play a guitar, if you look at Jimmy, the way he plays the guitar, when your elbow comes out, it looks like you're sawing wood. So when your hand goes back in like that, and you're playing, the speed of your playing then comes from your wrist.
Yeah.
It's like that. And then it's the release of these three fingers as you come down like that. It gives it the acceleration. See, when it goes like that. And then you can divide the fretboard into three areas, whether you're coming on a downstroke. I mean, I'm only playing with my fingers, but you can come back on those three and then.
Much more relaxed for your right arm.
Yeah, because your hand's doing that. You're not trying to do this, and you're not trying to pick up the notes. I mean, if you wanted to go. You know, my hand's hardly moving.
Yeah.
And I'm just using my fingers. But that's how it goes. So you can go on the backside. But you can't play that.
When you've got something stuck under your arm, yeah.
You can't play that, or you can't play like that on a Les Paul. Because your hand's sticking out, so you can't do it. You try it. It's not. It looks awkward. So when you actually put the guitar on, it's very important to get the length of the strap absolutely correct, so that your arm is relaxed. And the only way that you can really see that is if you play the guitar, set a mirror up in front of yourself and look at it. It's like a dancer practicing in front of a mirror. So you see to find out the correct position of how your hand should be. It would be like a golfer, like studying his swing. There's a lot more to it than it looks. I mean, why it looks easy when Jimmy plays is because it is easy. It's simple. Not difficult for him.
Yeah.
But that's the attention to detail of everything. So the way he plays. So you know, I mean, he would notice if the strap ain't right or this is not right. You see, or
He'd tell you.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, because he would, because that's his job.